Hello everyone, in this Figma tutorial video, we're going to learn how to create a set of flashcard animations that allow you to switch between flashcards by simply dragging them in one direction and switching back to the previous by dragging in the other direction. So let's get started. Once you have signed into Figma, click on New Design File and rename your draft title as your name. And we're going to call it Flashcard Animation. Okay, once done, we're going to add a frame. And for this tutorial, I'm going to add a phone frame using the latest iPhone 14 model. So it gives you something like this. And we're going to rename this frame layer as frame 1 for convenience. Now let's get started with frame 1. I'm going to create a set of feelings flashcards. So frame 1 is going to be my happy flashcard. So I'm going to change the fill color to a color that I like or I think is suitable. And of course, I'm going to add text. So let's draw a text box using the text tool. And before you add the words, pay attention to the size of the typing cursor. If it's too small, just feel free to change the size to something bigger. I'm going to try about 64. Yep, that looks good. And we're going to type in our first word for our flashcard. If you're not happy with the font, you can highlight it and just change it to a font that you're good with. Okay, I'm great with that. I'm going to centralize my text. And I'm going to make sure my text box is put nicely in the middle. Okay, now I'm going to design a graphic for this. So I already have something I have on hand, so I'm just going to paste it there. Okay, so that would be my happy flashcard. Now, I'm going to copy and paste frame 1 to make 2 more frames. And all I need to do for the next 2 frames is to modify the words and my graphic. So clicking onto the frame 1 layer, we're going to do a copy and paste. If you want, you can actually hide it. Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V, copy-paste to make frame 2. That will be our next card. And copy-paste to make frame 3, which will be our last card. So let's hop over to frame 2 first. Frame 2 is going to be our sad card. So I'm going to just change the fill color so that it helps me differentiate a bit better. So I'm going to change it to a blue. And this is going to be my sad card. So I'm going to just modify my smile upside down by flipping it vertically. Okay, and of course, modify the words to match. So this will be my sad card. Finally, I'm going to move on to frame 3. So click onto your frame 3 layer. And this is going to be my angry card. So I'm going to change the fill color to a different color. Okay, I'm going to modify the words as well as the icon. So for angry, I'm going to turn that frown upside down vertically. And I'm also going to add in the furrowed brows by drawing in some very straight lines, changing the thickness of it. And if I want, I can also round the corners of my line. So that's what I like. And I'm going to change the color to match that of my mouth. Okay, then I'm going to copy paste and make 2 brows, do a flip, and rearrange the other brow on the other eye. So it should look something like this. Okay, great. So I'm done with my 3 flashcards. Now I'm going to create the interactions or animations between them. So let's start off by going to the first frame, which is our happy flashcard. So click onto the first frame layer and click onto the prototype screen. Now what we're going to do here is when we drag our flashcard to the left, we are basically shifting it to the next frame, which is frame 2. So while dragging left, switch to frame 2, and we're going to create a push animation. So to do that, first I'm going to use the plus button to draw a connection to frame 2, and I'm going to modify the interaction details as on drag, navigate to frame 2, let's do a push. So it goes push, but we're going to push it to the left. Alright, finish. Let's move on to frame 2. So same thing, click on frame 2 layer, draw a connection to frame 3. So on, drag, navigate to frame 3, we're going to do a push to the left. There we go. And finally, for frame 3, we don't want to just stop there. We're going to draw a connection from frame 3 all the way back to frame 1. So on drag, we will navigate to frame 1, push to the left. So something like that. Okay? Now, we're going to do it the other way as well so that our animation doesn't just go in one way. So since we're already on frame 3, we're going to start with frame 3 going backwards. So from frame 3, we're going to draw another interaction backwards to frame 2, and we're going to change it as on drag, navigate to frame 2, push in the opposite direction so that we push to the right instead. Okay, next, let's move on to frame 2. So frame 2, we're going to draw it backwards to frame 1. So on drag, navigate to frame 1, push to the right. And finally, lastly, for our first frame, okay, when we push backwards, it should go back to frame 3. So draw a connection there. So on drag, navigate to frame 3, push to the right. Okay, so we're basically done with our interactions. So let's do a check and preview by pressing the play button, or you can also do it here to see your prototype in action. So after waiting for it to load, you can try it out. So when we drag to the left, we should see our flashcards changing to the next. And if you were to drag to the right the opposite way, you should see it switching back to the previous flashcard. And there you go. That's how you create a simple flashcard on drag animation. Once you're happy with it, you can click on Share Prototype and copy out the link to paste into your OneNote class notebook. And then once done, close the prototype view and go back to your Figma files if you wish to start on another project.